Disclaimer: this content is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised. My name is Lila. I'm 34, and right now, I feel like I'm unraveling, like the pieces of me that used to be so sure, so alive, are slipping away. There's this ache in my chest, a quiet torment that no one sees because I've always been good at hiding. But here's the truth that's been eating me alive: he found out I cheated and just vanished. And now, everyone around me seems to think I deserve it. It's like I'm confessing to a crime that no one else fully understands. Because what they don't see is how we used to be, how it felt when we first fell into each other. There was safety in his arms, a kind of heat that wrapped around me like a secret. Our kisses used to be soft but charged, like we were the only two people in the world who mattered. He'd hold me close after, like I was the only person he wanted to protect. Those moments felt sacred. I remember the way his hand would find mine on the couch, fingers lacing tightly, a silent promise that we were together, unbreakable. But then, things began to shift. The kisses started feeling rushed, like I was chasing a ghost. When he held me now, it was tighter, less gentle, like a grip trying to keep something slipping away. One night, I reached for him, desperate for the warmth I once knew, but he pulled back, his eyes avoiding mine. The cuddling we used to crave felt cold and mechanical, more like a transaction than a comfort. A hug that used to say "I'm here" suddenly felt like a demand, a test, or worse, a way to hold me accountable for something I couldn't name. The exact moment I knew something had changed was late one Sunday afternoon. We were on the couch, the silence between us heavier than the late summer heat pressing against the windows. I tried to kiss him, soft, tentative, but he turned his face away, as if my touch burned. That's when the hollow inside me cracked open, and I realized the man who once made me feel seen was now a stranger in our shared home. And so here I am, losing my mind over a mistake, in a love that's gone cold, wondering if anyone will ever really understand how we got here. He's a chef, Marcus. That's how we met, actually. In the kitchen of a small, crowded restaurant where I was a food critic. He had this rough, confident energy, the kind that drew me in like a magnet. But now, after nearly 6 years together, his way of showing love feels like a language I don't speak anymore. He tries. God, he tries. Every night, when I come home exhausted from my editing job, Marcus will meet me at the door with a hug. But it's the kind of hug that's firm, almost urgent, like he's trying to hold on to something slipping away. He'll pull me close, press his forehead to mine, and murmur, "I missed you." But I can't stop noticing how quick he is to let go. Like there's a clock running in his head, and if he lingers too long, something might break. He's always reaching for my hands, trying to kiss my neck or run his fingers through my hair. But for me, it's never enough, because what I want isn't just the touch. I'm starving for the conversation we used to have when we stayed up until dawn, sharing our fears, dreams, and every little thing that made us us. Last week, after a particularly rough day, I sat on the edge of the bed, hoping he'd see the distance growing between us. Instead, Marcus came over, wrapped his arms around me, and whispered, "Let me make it better." But I pulled away, too tired to explain that his touch, while familiar, felt empty without the emotional connection I craved. I wanted to tell him that the nights I felt invisible, when he came home late smelling like smoke and spice, barely asking how my day was, I wasn't just lonely because he wasn't there physically. I needed him here, inside my head and heart, not just in the space beside me. But the words stuck, tangled in my throat, because I wasn't sure if he'd understand or if I was even allowed to feel this way. And that's the cruelest part: he's trying, in the only way he knows how, but I'm drowning in a silence between us that no kiss or hug can fill. That night, Marcus was waiting for me in the dim light of our living room, the scent of basil and garlic still clinging to his shirt from the dinner he'd cooked. He smiled that easy, familiar smile, the one that used to make my heart skip, and reached for my hand. "Hey," he said softly, pulling me closer. you're quieter than usual. What's on your mind? I wanted to tell him everything, but my voice caught. Instead, I let him pull me into a hug. His hand slid around my waist, and I should have melted into it like I used to. But instead, I flinched when his fingers brushed over my lower back, an old, playful slap meant to make me laugh. The touch landed too sharp, too sudden. I barely caught myself before stepping back, heart pounding. He noticed. "Sorry," he said, a flicker of hurt in his eyes. "Didn't mean to startle you." I forced a smile and nodded, but inside, I was spinning. The kiss he pressed to my cheek felt distant, like I was a stranger he was trying to remember. When he leaned in to kiss my lips, I froze. The warmth I used to crave was gone. His breath on my skin, the softness of his lips, it all felt hollow. I wanted to want it. I wanted to want him. But my mind spiraled instead. Why does everything have to turn into sex? It wasn't just that. It was how every attempt at closeness seemed to rush toward that, as if the only way he knew to say I love you was through desire. But what I needed was the quiet in-between, the tenderness without expectation, the look that said I see you without moving toward anything physical. I stepped back again, heart heavier than before, wondering if I was the only one feeling this way. We were sitting across from each other at the tiny table in our cramped kitchen, the soft glow of the overhead light casting long shadows. Marcus had cooked pasta, my favorite, but the smell didn't make my stomach flutter like it used to. Instead, it felt like a weight pressing down. He reached across the table and took my hand. "Lila, what's going on with us? You've been distant for weeks. Talk to me." I wanted to find the right words, but instead, the frustration I'd been bottling up all these months exploded. Tears sprang unbidden to my eyes. "I'm tired, Marcus. Tired of pretending everything's okay when it's not. You think showing love means grabbing me, kissing me, like that fixes everything. But it doesn't. You found out I cheated, and you just vanished. And now, everyone thinks I deserve this silence, this emptiness. But I'm losing my mind." The words hung between us like a sudden storm. Marcus's face flickered, first confusion, then anger. His jaw clenched, and he pulled his hand away sharply. "You think I wanted to vanish? You think this is easy for me?" I shook my head, biting my lip to stop myself from screaming. The room felt unbearably tight, and I wished I could disappear too. After a heavy silence, Marcus stood up, his eyes dark. He said nothing and left the room. I sat there, the sting of tears burning my cheeks, guilt wrapping around my heart like chains. I'd pushed him away, again, and the shame was suffocating. Had I really deserved this? Was I the only one who felt like I was drowning in a love that had turned cold? The thought gnawed at me. He found out I cheated and just vanished. Now I'm losing my mind and everyone thinks I deserve it. And maybe they were right. Maybe this was all my fault. Days passed like they were made of stone, heavy, unmoving, impossible to ignore. The house felt quieter than ever, but not peaceful. Just empty. Marcus and I became two strangers sharing the same space, caught in a web of silence that neither of us dared to break. I watched him from across the room more than I cared to admit. There was a slump in his shoulders I hadn't seen before, a tiredness in his eyes that mirrored my own. He didn't yell. He didn't storm out. He just retreated. Some nights, I caught him staring out the window long after the world had gone dark, like he was trying to hold on to something slipping through his fingers. I missed him, the way his laugh used to fill the room, the way his hand fit perfectly in mine, the quiet moments when everything felt safe and real. But when I thought about reaching out, the words tangled in my throat. How do you fix something when every touch feels loaded, every glance feels like a test? How do you say I'm sorry without reopening wounds neither of us were ready to face? My guilt was a constant ache, like a shadow that stretched longer every day. I wanted to tell him how much I still loved him, but I was terrified that saying it would only remind him of what I'd broken. And I wasn't sure if he wanted to try. Or if I did. One night, alone with my thoughts, I whispered to the dark, "Do I fight for us? Or do I finally let go?" The answer wasn't clear yet, but I knew this was the moment I had to decide. One evening, weeks after the silence had settled between us like dust, Marcus finally spoke. It wasn't a grand gesture or a dramatic confession, just quiet words over a late cup of tea. "I don't know how to fix this, Lila," he said, voice raw but steady. "But I want to try. If you do." I looked at him, the same man who once held me like I was the center of his world, now fragile and unsure, and felt a flicker of hope. We talked, really talked, for the first time in months. About what went wrong, about the spaces we left empty, about needing more than just touch to feel connected. We agreed on boundaries, no rushing, no pretending. Just honesty. Later, when the words finally settled between us, Marcus pulled me into a silent hug. No expectations, no pressure, just the warmth of two people trying to find their way back. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And for the first time in a long time, I felt seen. I watched him sleep on the couch that night, the weight of the room pressing down on me. His face was peaceful, but the space between us felt cavernous. The love that had once burned bright had cooled into something distant and fragile. I reached out, gently brushing a stray curl from his forehead and kissed it, a small, bittersweet gesture that held all the things I couldn't say. Maybe it was too late. Maybe we had already drifted past the point of no return. But as I pulled the blanket over him and turned off the light, I told myself that loving someone sometimes means knowing when to let go, even if your heart still aches for what could have been. I want to tell you something I didn't understand until everything fell apart, that love isn't just about the moments when your bodies touch or when words are whispered in the dark. It's about being truly seen. It's about the spaces in between, the silence, the waiting, the knowing someone holds your story without judgment. I learned that desire without connection can feel empty, like chasing shadows. That emotional intimacy isn't a luxury, it's the foundation. And sometimes, no matter how much you want to hold on, people drift away, not because you didn't try hard enough, but because love changes. It morphs, it fades, or sometimes it simply isn't enough to heal the cracks. Whether Marcus stayed or left, I'm still here. Still learning, still broken in places, but also stronger in ways I never expected. And maybe that's the hardest truth of all, that sometimes losing someone isn't the end of the story, but the beginning of finding yourself. So if you're listening, and feeling that ache, know this: love isn't supposed to make you feel invisible. And no matter how dark the silence gets, your story is worth being heard.